So here is our other factor that affects the end behavior. We looked at degree when it's even and odd. Now let's look at the leading coefficient, so the number in the front when it's in standard form. So what happens when we change that between positive or negative leading coefficient in the front? So first, let's look at two even functions. Here's the first one. So this one has degree of, well, the highest one is here in the front. It's already in standard form, so the degree is 4. And our leading coefficient here would be 1, right? So that means we're dealing in this side with a positive coefficient in the front, so a positive leading coefficient. And in this case, it's 1. All right. And so we can see this looks pretty similar to the one on the other side that we did with the degree of 4. And now let's look at this graph over here and see how the leading coefficient compares. The equation's a little similar, but I changed it a tiny bit here. But it still has degree of 4. And the only difference now is our number in front. You can't see it, but remember there's really like a 1 here. So in this case, our lead coefficient is -1, which is a negative leading coefficient. So we can kind of compare now, well, what happened when it was positive versus when it was negative? When it was positive, it's going up towards the left, it's increasing, and it's also increasing as we go to the right. So they're both going up. But now when I've changed it to a negative number in the front, a negative leading coefficient, you can see that all of a sudden now instead of both going up, they're both coming down. So as we go this way, it's going down to the left and down to the right. And let's see what that does to our odd functions. So let's see, our first one here, you can see these equations actually are the exact same besides the number in the front. So in our first one, our f of x, it's a cubic, and the leading coefficient is a +2. So this has a positive leading coefficient, which is 2, right there. And here's our graph. It looks similar to the cubic we had on the front side where, to the left it's going down, and then on the right it's now going up. So they are opposite of each other. And then on our other one, we can see, well, the only difference here is that this leading coefficient is negative. And I'll just put what it is, -2. And now we need to compare the end behavior here. So in this case, we still have a cubic, but now on the left side it's actually going up, and on the right side it's going down. So that's the opposite of what we had when it was positive. So when it was positive, we had down, up, and negative, we have up, down. And same up here, when it was positive, they both went up, now they both go down. So it kind of looks like when there's a negative coefficient, it switches the end behavior. So if we want to summarize this, we can actually look at the 4 graphs that we drew up there. So a summary of the end behavior, I'm going to actually draw the end behavior. So in this square here, I want to show what does the end behavior look like when it has a positive leading coefficient and it's an odd degree polynomial. Now that was here, positive coefficient, leading coefficient, and an odd degree. And it looks like that was going down on the left and up on the right. So I'm just going to draw going down, and then it's going up. So this is like the left side, and then this is the right side. And then odd degree negative leading coefficient was our other one down here that we just looked at. And that one appears to be doing the opposite. On the left it's going up, on the right it's going down. So I'm just going to draw that in my box. So I'm kind of just cutting out the middle section because all I'm really looking at is what happens to the end behaviors. So this one should be opposite of our positive one. So this one was going up, and then on the right side it was going down. So left, right. And then we can just make a note that when it's odd degree, it goes in opposite directions. Right? So one's going down, the other's going up. This one's going up, the other one's going down. Now for even, well, those were on the top of our paper, so we want to look at even with a positive leading coefficient. That's up here, and it looks like they're both going up, which also matches on the first page when we had that quadratic. Right? This one, they were both going up as well. So I'm just going to draw that in here. So that would be up on the left and also up on the right. So I'm just focusing on the end behaviors. So here we have, I can even just write both go up. And then when it comes to an even degree and a negative leading coefficient, well, now I can look at my example of that. Here's the negative coefficient and an even degree, and we can see that they both were going down. So the ends are both going down. So I'm just going to draw that in my box. Down and down. So both down. So we can see when it was odd, the end behaviors are going in opposite directions, but when it was even, now they're going in the same direction. So either both up or both down.